Let us begin with a prayer. This is on page 196 of Universal Prayers, the book Universal Prayers, page 196, the first one on the top of the page. This is from, no, that is not the prayer. Let me, the one I want to do today, sorry. Page 210, not 196. Page 210 of Universal Prayer, the top, first one at the top of the page. This is from Tulsidas Ramayana, Ramastotra. Om Namami Bhaktavatsalam Kripalu Shila Komalam Bhajami Te Padambujam Yakaminam Swadhamadam Tadekamad Prabham Nirihamishwaram Vibhum Jagadgurum Shashwatam Turijameka Kevalam. Second one. Bhajami Bhava Vallabham Koyoginam Sudurlabham Swabhakta Kalpa Padapam Samasta Sevyamanvaham Aruparupa Bhupatim Natohamur Bijapatim Prasida Dehi Me Vibho Padabja Bhakti Masute. The translation is on page 211. O Lord, I bow down to you who are compassionate, gracious and sweet. You alone, O Lord, are marvelous, selfless, mighty and omnipresent. You are the teacher of the world, eternal, transcendent, one and absolute. I worship your lotus feet that enable the selfless souls to attain to your eternal abode. I offer worship unto you, O Lord of love, whom the worldly minded cannot reach, but who are to the devotees the wish-yielding tree and the object of worship to all. Lord of the universe, you are formless and yet with forms. Have mercy upon me, O Lord, and pray promptly grant me devotion to your lotus feet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace. May there be peace in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. So we are at the end of chapter 14, where Bhagavan is describing the virtues, qualities of a Trigunatita, one who has transcended the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. This was in response to Arjuna's question in verse number 21. The 21st sloka of chapter 14. Arjuna asked Bhagavan, what are the qualities of a person who has transcended the three gunas? How can we recognize such a person? How does he conduct himself or herself? Kimacharaha. Katham etavan trin gunan ativartit. How he or she has transcended the three gunas? What are the disciplines, virtues that we have to practice in order to become free from the three gunas? Very important key question. Similar question Arjuna had asked before in his second chapter about the qualities of a Sita Prajna. Second chapter, verse 54. Arjuna's question was, what are the qualities of Sita Prajna? Sita Prajnasya ka bhasha samavistasya keshava. That verse. Then 55 onwards until the end of second chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives a long list of qualities of a Sita Prajna, a person of steady wisdom who is a Jivan Mukta, can be a Jivan Mukta, liberated. That is one list. Then again in the 13th chapter, in the 12th chapter, from verses 13 to 19, Bhagavan describes the qualities of a devotee, bhakta, who has pure devotion, not just ordinary devotion, but pure devotion, prema. That is another list, 12th chapter, verse 13 to 19. In the 13th chapter, again, Bhagavan gives a list of 20 virtues or qualities or disciplines that one has to practice to become a jnani. What is jnana? That is 13th chapter, 7 to 11, verses 7 to 11. Amanitvam, madambitvam, ahimsa, kshantirardivam, that beginning with that verse. Now in the 14th chapter, Bhagavan is giving a shorter list of virtues of one who has become free from three gunas. These lists are very important. Different places in the Gita we get such lists. These are things for us to do, disciplines to practice, virtues to practice. So we can become free from the three gunas, we can have pure devotion, and we can have self-knowledge, and we can become sita prajnas even while living in this body before the life ends. We can become jnanis, bhaktas, and sita prajnas. These are very important parts of the Gita. Practical instructions. There is also Brahma Vidya in this one. The nature of reality, who we are, everything is Brahman. That part is also there. That is Jnana, Brahma Vidya. But for aspirants, seekers like us, the practical instructions are very important. That's what we can do, practice. These are disciplines which have to practice. Some of them, if not all of them. All of them are difficult. If you take a few that we can and start, that will be enough. Other things will happen by themselves. So we were studying sloka number 22, 23, we did 24, we did 25. That also we did. Verse 25 and chapter 14. Manapa manayo stulyastulyo mitrari pakshayo sarvarambha parityagi gunatitasya uchyate. Gunatita, when you have transcended the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, such a person is always equanimous. Equanimity of mind does not become perturbed by anything. Mana apamanayoho tulyaha. Mana means somebody showing us respect, praising us. Apamana means somebody doing the opposite, insulting us, embarrassing us, and giving us trouble. Mana apamanayoho tulyaha. Tulya means equal, samana. When somebody praises, we should not become too much elated, exalted, because same people may blame us tomorrow. When somebody blames us, apamana, just something to embarrass us, then we should not become angry or dejected or depressed. Take everything in stride, remain calm. These are qualities common to all disciplines, all disciples of all disciplines. Those who want to become jnanis, seeking self-knowledge, for them this equanimity of mind is very important. Sutta Prajna has this. For those who want to practice pure devotion, as in 12th chapter, for them this quality of equanimity is very important. And for those who want to transcend the three gunas, the effect is the same in all the cases. The discipline is the same. Manapa manayo tulyaha. Tulyaha mitrari pakshayo. Mitra means friend. Ari means a foe. Friend here, mitra means a friend who does good to us without being asked and without expecting anything in return from us. There are certain other friends who do something else and expect us to return the favor in some way. But a mitra is not like that. Even before we express our need, a true friend will ascertain, will know what we need. And such a person helps us with an unselfish motive, without expecting anything in return from us. Such a person is a Mitra. Mitra, Sukran Mitra. This came in chapter 6, verse 9. Equanimity, same-sightedness, seeing everybody alike. Chapter 6, verse 9. The same quality Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna described. Suran Mitra Ridasi Namadhyastadeshya Bandhushu Sadhushrapicha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate. Whether he is a sadhu or a papi, a sinner or a saint, we treat them with equal respect and compassion, seeing the divine presence in all of them. Some are aware, some are not aware of God's presence. Some experience God's presence in them, many don't experience. But he is present in all, unconditionally. So that's what we should look at. That's the basis for all our relationships. Mitradi pakshayoho, remaining equal, helping us, seeing everybody alike. Those who are friendly towards us, those who are not friendly towards us. Not being attached to one and not hating the other. Sarvaramba parityagi gunatitasya uchyate. Arambha means some activity that we purposefully want to do, hoping that some benefit will come, seeking some benefit from activity. Other activities which we are required to do, duties that we have to do. Everybody has duties. No? The duties vary from person to person. Householders' duties are different. Swami's duties are different. Children's duties are different. Parents' duties are different. Teachers' duties are different. So different from person to person, duties. And for any given person, duties change with time. What is my duty? This morning is not my duty now. What was my duty 5 years ago? My duty is different today. It changes. So it's a variable thing. To understand what a person's duty is at any given time is very important, and fulfill that duty. Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga book, one chapter is called What is Duty? There are 8 chapters in that book, Karma Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. One chapter is called What is Duty? How to determine it. He discusses this in detail. So, Sarvarambha Parityagi means a person who performs his or her duties. That is to be done. We can't escape. Arambha here means some work, additional work which we do, we may or not be required, but we still do it because we want to get some benefit out of it, seeking something from it, seeking some benefit. Arambha. Starting some new project, it may not be necessary, but if I do this, I'll get this benefit. That kind of calculation is there, calculated activity. That should not be done by a seeker of freedom from the 3 gunas, Trigunatit. Sarvarambha parityagi gunatitasya uchyate. In the commentary, Shankara says, Sarvarambha parityagi, he does not initiate any action, that is, renounces all actions except what is meant to support life in the body, basic duties. But for majority of people, besides that, we have to do service activity to help other people without any selfishness. With a totally unselfish attitude, we have to do service because that purifies the mind. Swami Vivekananda was emphasized greatly the importance of service, serving the poor people, serving the needy people, sick people, destitutes, homeless people. In any way, humble way we can. We cannot all change all. We cannot solve everybody's problem. You cannot make all the homeless people, give them good houses to stay. That's not possible. We still have to do whatever we can to the extent that we can, not necessarily to change the world, but to purify our mind and become unselfish. Service means doing something with unselfish motive, not expecting anything in return, no name also. When you do something, we should not expect our name to be mentioned. Without much publicity or ado, doing something for helping other people. That is important part of spiritual life for majority of people. Different people do it in different ways. Some of the jnanis who are not known to the world, they don't come to public light at all, and they sit in a cave somewhere. But we may say they are selfish people. They are seeking knowledge only for themselves. What are they doing to the world? That question can be asked. But the way they help people is not known to the public, to anybody. They send one thought wave. These are people with pure minds who have transcended three gunas, who have pure devotion and knowledge. Such people don't come out and make a big noise and hoopla about serving other people. Stay somewhere, not seen by others, not known to others. And they send one positive thought. And that is enough. That thought is so powerful that it goes all over the world and transforms the lives of people who are ready to receive it. But you have to be attuned to receive that one. They're always there helping the world. So that is their way of helping, subtle way, unseen, unknown way. But other people, they do service which is visible. People serving in soup kitchens and animal shelters and hospitals and libraries and other places, senior centers, people go to volunteer work. Doctors and other people have special knowledge and skill. That is visible service, but that has to be done without selfish motive. That also helps, purifies the mind, makes us unselfish and unattached. That's the purpose of service. So these activities have to be done. But activities meant for selfish reason to gain something from it, they should not be done. They should not be done. Unselfish activities, service, they have to be done. Our duties are to be done. We cannot stop doing the duties. When a person does all these things, sarvarambha parityagi, refrains from doing selfish activities. Saha gunatita iti uchyate. Such a person is called a gunatita. All qualities of gunatita in this verse, from 22 onwards. Then we go to verse number 26. This freedom from three gunas can be achieved by the path of devotion also. To the path of jnana, we can achieve freedom from three gunas. I'm not the body mind. I'm the Atman. The gunas don't touch me. Gunas affect only body mind. That is the path of the jnani. Rejecting identity with the body and the mind and asserting identity with the self. That can be done, but it's more difficult. An easier path suited for the Kali Yuga is the path of devotion. As Sri Ramakrishna often emphasized, for Kali Yuga, the path of devotion as taught by Narada is the best way to reach God. So that can be done. That's mentioned in this verse 26. Yo cham mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati jaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So the path of bhakti, not ordinary bhakti, avyabhichareni bhakti. We'll discuss that. Mam yaha, such a person who avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Sevate means worship. Those people who worship me with pure devotion, bhakti yoga, path of devotion, but avyabhicharani bhakti. It is different from ordinary bhakti. How? Those of you who are studying Narada Bhakti Sutra, you know the difference. In ordinary bhakti, there is always some seeking from God. Something we are asking God to give us something in return for our worship. Those we discussed in 7th chapter. Chapter 7, 16, 17, 18, 3 shlokas. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna described the qualities for devotees with different degrees of devotion. Those who have devotion which is expecting something from God. Praying for pure devotion only, that is different. So in the 7th chapter, shloka 14, 16, 17, 18, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, 4 kinds of people worship me. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna. Different kinds mean by different, with different motivations. We all worship God in some way. But we have different motivations for worshipping God. Some people worship God seeking relief from suffering. Artha, they are called arthas. Arthi means suffering. In the evening arti, when we say Surya Mangala Mangalya, when we chant from the Chandi, we say Sarvasyarte Hare Devi Narayane Namostute. The Divine Mother is Sarvasyarte Hara. She removes the difficulties of everybody who pray to her. Artha means a person who is in distress, some kind of problem, suffering. Such a person prays to God to seeking relief from that suffering. Please relieve me from this problem, health problem, family problem, job problem, whatever numerous problems people have. That is one kind of devotion, one motivation for worshipping God, Artha, seeking freedom from suffering. Second kind of person with different motivation who worships God is Artharthi. We'll come to Jignasu later. Artharthi means a person worships God seeking something which he or she does not have, wanting to have something that one does not have. It may be a house. A homeless person worships God seeking a place to stay. Legitimate reason to worship. There's nothing wrong in worshipping God, seeking something. Because whom else do we go to if we need something? God. So that is in itself a good thing, worshipping God, even for seeking something. Artharthi, one who seeks money, Artha means money, or any other object is also called Artha. It may be a house, it may be a spouse, it may be a child, it may be a job, it may be a promotion, it may be money, it may be anything. Seeking something from God that one does not already have. That is another kind of motivation to worship God. These are all ordinary bhakti. Avyabhacharani bhakti, where there is no seeking God. Then the third kind of person, devotee, with a different motivation worships God, he or she is Jignasu. Jnana means knowledge. Jignasa means desire for knowledge of God, not worldly knowledge. That also we can seek from God. Here it is knowledge of God. Jignasu means one who seeks knowledge of God. True devotee seeks only knowledge of God. He or she does not want anything else. A true devotee prays to God, O God, O Lord, or O Divine Mother, please reveal your true nature to me. I want to know you. I am not that much interested in the world and worldly things. I am interested in knowing you. I want devotion to you. Such a person is also a devotee, but he or she is seeking something, knowledge of God. That's the noble thing to ask, best thing to ask. Then the fourth person who worships God, has devotion to God, but has no seeking at all for anything, of anything. He is Jnani. Artho Jignasarartharthi Jnani cha Bharatashrama. Jnani or a pure devotee are both same on the highest level. Jnana and devotion appear to be different in the beginning, when we begin spiritual life, because the paths are different, starting points are different. But as Jnani makes progress towards God, so towards self-knowledge, Bhakta makes progress towards God, they both converge, get closer and closer. When they meet in God. Both of them will reach God as this destination. Either path will lead us to the same goal. The goal is God. So that way they are not different. In regard to the fruit they produce, Jnana Bhakti are both same. So Bhakta. Of all the four kinds of people, Artha, Jignasa, Jnani, Artharthi Jnani, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Jnani is dearest to me because he is totally absorbed in me. For a Jnani or a Bhakta, there is nothing other than God. No other interest, things that interest him. Only God. Matparaha. Those are the four kinds of people worship God. Here, coming back to verse 26 in chapter 14, Mam avyabhicharena bhakti yogina sevati. Avyabhicharena bhakti means not seeking anything else other than God or devotion to God. Even if a person has need for something, such a devotee will not ask God to supply that one, because such a devotee has such total faith in God that he or she will not seek anything. A true devotee is fully convinced that God knows our needs better than we know. We may think something is good for us, but God may not grant us when we ask for it, because He thinks it may not be good for us. We leave it to Him, His judgment, not my judgment. That is pure devotion. Avyabhacharani bhakti. Even if a jnani or a bhakta has some problem, that person will not ask for solving the problem, becoming free from it. He leaves it to the will of God. Everything happens by the will of God. You remember the gospel story? Everything happens by will of Rama, that weaver story. That is pure devotion. Not tying God's hand by asking this or that specifically, but leaving everything to the will of God. Whatever God does is the best thing for me. I'm not going to stipulate something and limit Him. That is the best devotion. Devotion not shared by any other desire or any other object. Total devotion, pure devotion. A person who practices such devotion also becomes free from the three gunas. How to practice this kind of avyavicharani bhakti, pure devotion, that is described by Narada Maharshi in his devotion, aphorisms on devotion. Sri Ramakrishna referred to it many times. Naradiya bhakti. These are simple instructions, same as what we see in the Bhakti Yoga chapter of Gita. Avyavarta bhajanat, Narada says. Bhajana means worshiping. Worshiping can be done in many different ways, not only ritualistic worship. Repeating God's name is also a worship of God. Avyavarta bhajanat means by uninterrupted worship of God. That's a sign of pure devotion. Ordinary devotion, now and then you worship God sporadically when you feel like, or when you have some time. Otherwise, you are busy with the world. That is ordinary devotion. Pure devotion means avyavarta bhajana, uninterrupted devotion, uninterrupted recollection of God. Whatever we are doing, God is in our mind. All our work we offer to God as our offering, as our worship. That also Narada mentions. Whatever we do, we should offer to God. Sri Krishna has mentioned it several times in the Gita. Whatever work we do, offer it to me, the Lord has sent. So when we are doing some work, if you offer it to God, mentally you are connected with God. Though we are doing the work manually, work I'm doing, whatever I am doing right now, including eating, talking, walking, speaking, whatever we do, all of that is done as worship, as offering. By developing that attitude towards work, what happens is you are constantly in communion with God. You are doing everything for Him. Every step we take is worship of God. Every word I speak is worship of God. Everything I see is worship of God. Everything I do is worship of God. Then I'm always connected with God. So whole life becomes an unbroken, continuous stream of worship. You're always doing something, including sleeping. The Shankaracharya's famous verse, whatever I do, O Lord, accept it as my worship. Please accept all my activities as worship. Yadyat karma karomi tattadakilam Shambho tava aradhanam. O Lord Shambho, whatever karma I do, except in bad karma, we should not do at all. We should not do bad karma and say, I'm offering it to God. That won't work. That has to be given up. Nishiddha karma. All of the karma that we do, yat karma karomi tattadakilam, all those activities, O Shambho, O Lord, tava aradhanam is your aradhanam is worship. That is the way to practice pure devotion. All activities are worship, no seeking from God, and no hatred towards any other being. As Sri Krishna has described the qualities of devotee in the 12th chapter, 13 to 19 slokas. Chapter 12, verse 13 to 19. First quality of a devotee is adveshta sarabhutanam. No dvesha, hatred towards any being. Even they may be wicked people. No hatred. Only prayer for them and compassion. When we pray to God to give them sadbuddhi, First of all, we should have sadbuddhi for ourselves before we pray for others. Then we will worry about other people. That we have to ask. Like these qualities of devotee, those people who practice such kind of pure devotion, they also become free from the three gunas. Not only those who say, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm the Atman, that is one way, which is difficult for many people. But this is easier way to worship God without seeking anything. Pure love, seeking only pure devotion. In the Shikshashtakam, a famous verse composed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. The Lord said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya says, when you pray to God, don't seek anything of a worldly nature. Don't seek money, property, house, fame. No, I don't want any of these things. I want only one thing from you. We should tell God. What is that one thing we want from God? Only pure devotion. Sri Ramakrishna said the same thing. And the famous prayer in the Gospel is on page 731 in the English edition. In the Gospel. There, there Sri Ramakrishna says, oh Divine Mother, I don't want anything. Ma ame tama sharanagato sharanagato. I have taken refuge at your holy feet, O Divine Mother. Tamar Sri Padapadde Sharanyalam. I have taken refuge at your holy feet. Diyasoka Chayana. I don't want bodily comfort. Lokamana Chayana. I don't want fame, worldly fame. Anima the Ashtasiddhi Chayana. I don't want Anima, Garima, Mahima, all those 8 occult powers. Siddhis, they come and go. They are obstructions to spiritual life. But I want one thing from you. Keval yahi karo jeno tamashe padapade amay shuddha bhakti. Just grant me this much, that I have pure devotion to your lotus feet. Like this he prayed. Showed us how to pray. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu earlier had given this prayer, instruction on how to pray and what to ask from God, what to ask of God when you pray to God. There one stanza from Shikshashtakam is, this has come so many times, familiar to you. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam, va jagadisha kamaye. Jagadisha was already the universe. Na dhanam kamaye, I don't want wealth, money. What do you do with wealth? Enough money to pay the bills, food on table. Na janam kamaye, janam means people, followers. It can be progeny also, disciples. I don't want any of those things. Always people praising me, surrounding me. I don't want all those things. Na sundarim kamaya. I don't want a beautiful or handsome spouse. Na kavitam kamaya. Kavita means poetry. The ability to write poetry, scholarship, all those skills, literary skill, all those. I don't want any of those things. But I want one thing from you. We should definitely ask one thing from God. What is that one thing we should ask of God? Mama janmani janmani. In all my births, in the present birth, I want to have pure devotion. If I have to take future births, more births in the future, in all those births, Mama janmani janmani, Twayi Ishwari, in you, O Lord, Ahayutiki bhakti bhavatat. May I have motiveless devotion. Hetu means reason or devotion, reason or cause. Some people pray to God with a motivated devotion. I want this, I want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. That is not pure devotion. Ahayutiki bhakti means motiveless, no seeking anything from God. I want only love for you, for lotus feet. Grant me that much. That is Avyabhacharani. You are discussing Avyabhacharani Bhakti in Sloka 26, chapter 14. Yo mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. We practice in pure devotion also. Sagunan samati teitan. Such a person who has pure devotion, such a person, etan gunan samatitya, transcending the 3 gunas, which is the goal of life. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate, becomes fit for liberation. That Brahma bhuyaya kalpate has come, or similar phrases come in several places in the Bhagavad Gita. In this, in chapter 13, Bhagavan Shri Krishna said, chapter 13, verse 18. You don't have to remember this one, but same idea has come there. There it says, Iti kshetram tatha jnanam jeyam doktas swaktam samasataha madbhakta etad vijnaya madbhavayopapadyate. A person who practices, who gains knowledge of kshetra kshetranga differentiation, such a person becomes fit for liberation, like that, many places. So such a person who practices pure devotion, avyabhacharani bhakti, sloka 26, saha, such a person, sa or sa, he or she, etan trin gunan atitya, transcending the three gunas. What happens? Brahma bhoyaya kalpate, becomes fit for status of Brahman. That means becomes one with Brahman, achieves liberation from the cycle of birth and death, from all suffering and limitations. So to path of bhakti also leads to the same goal. Then we go to verse number 27. That's the last one. This is kind of an introduction to the next chapter. 27 sloka. Brahmano hi pratisthaham amritasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya ekantikasya cha. Shashvata dharma. Here the word Brahma is used in a different sense. One meaning that we can assign to this word Brahmana of Brahma is Saguna Brahma, God with name and form. Another meaning is that one meaning is enough. Another meaning is Prakriti, which takes quite far away from our discussion. So Brahmana aham pratishtha. Pratishtha means foundation. Aham means here the Supreme Lord, referring to himself, which he is going to describe in the next chapter, Purushottama. He is the basis of our self-knowledge, Brahmana. He is the Pratyagatman, the individual soul present within us, same as Supreme Soul, Paramatman, Bhagavan. He is the basis. He and Brahman are same. There is no difference. We feel the difference because of our association with the body and the mind. We all have a feeling that I'm a separate person. I'm this person with these qualities, with these things. That is not knowing our pure nature as the supreme reality. Everything is Brahman, as Upanishads says. Sarvam khalvidam Brahma, Upanishads says. That is true knowledge. But since we are not experiencing that one at this moment, we feel that we are separate. And the basis for that reality within us is the Supreme Self. Bhagavan himself is the basis, foundation. Pratishtha means foundation. Brahmano hi pratisthaham amritasya avyayasya cha. Not in the nature of that Brahman. Several qualities are there. Pratishtha, Amrita. Amrita means immortal. All things in this universe are mortal, perishable. They come and go. Everything ends at some point in time. Except Supreme Reality Brahman. He is imperishable. That is Amrita, immortal. Amritasya avyayasya cha. Avyaya means imperishable. Vyaya means expenditure. Avyaya means imperishable. Everything is perishable. Everything in this nature is perishable, including not only this earth, all the beings on the earth, the solar system, the planets, the sun, our sun, and this is one solar system, like this other stars in our galaxy, other galaxy, everything, they come and go. They have a finite duration of existence. So they are what we call Pravaha Nityatvam. This will come in the next chapter. I'm giving a brief introduction. When we talk of permanence, two kinds of permanence we can visualize. One supreme example is Brahman, ultimate reality, described in the Upanishad. Permanent means really permanent, no change and no end, no beginning, no end, no change, infinite, eternal. That is called Nityatvam, eternally present. Nitya means every day, all the time. That what kind of Nityatvam? It is called Kutastha Nityatvam. These things you don't have to worry about the nomenclature. They will come again in the next chapter. Two kinds of permanence. Brahman is ultimate reality, really totally permanent. No beginning, no end, no limit, no change, nothing. no attributes. That is kutastha nityatvam. Nityatvam means for every day, present all the time, permanence. Kutastha means unchanging permanence. Does not change at all. And this world, if you take, is also eternal. But this eternal, this permanence of the world is of a different nature. Everything in the world is every moment changing. Every fraction of a moment, everything is changing. Some changes we don't notice because they are so slow. Something's changing in front of us, we see. So everything is changing. But everything as a whole world, it will exist for a long time. This is called pravaha nityatvam. Pravaha means a current of water flowing, just like a river. If you take an example of a river, every moment, every particle of water is moving. It's not stationary at all. Every particle of water in a river is moving towards the ocean. But the whole river as a whole exists. That kind of permanence of a river, the river itself is there, but everything is moving in it, changing in it. The world is like this pravaha nityatvam. In this world, if you take, every element is moving. Every body is changing, every animal is changing, every tree is changing, every planet is changing. Every moment, but it exists as a whole. So this different kind of nityatva. But true permanence is only Brahman. That is kutastha nityatva. Kutastha means, gives to understand the word kutastha. The example of an anvil is given. If you go to an old-fashioned this blacksmith shop, the blacksmith has a anvil, a very heavy object. It stays firmly in the ground, does not move. On the anvil, the blacksmith places the workpiece, a red-hot piece of iron he keeps, holding with long tongs. And with a hammer or some instrument, he shapes it, gives the shape he wants. So this anvil does not change. The workpiece changes shape. The anvil, which does not change, supports everything. Without the anvil, you cannot keep the red-hot iron piece anywhere on the ground if you want to work. You need the anvil, which is unchanging, very strong, unmoving, supports everything. That's Brahman. That is kutastha nityatva, unchanging eternality, permanence. We'll study this again. It will come in the next chapter. Brahmanohi pratishtaham amritasya. Amritasya means immortal, unchanging, eternal. Avyayasya, imperishable. Shashvatasya cha dharmasya, foundation of Shashvata Dharma. Dharma is of two kinds. One is Shashvata Dharma, permanent Dharma, does not change with time or place. Dharma is true, certain types of Dharma, one type of Dharma is true in every country, in every century. Time and place don't change it at all. For example, telling the truth. Patanjali calls them Sarabam Mahavrata. Satya. Telling the truth is a common rule in every society, in every country, in every century. It does not change with time or with place. As opposed to that, there is another kind of Dharma. That means Yuga Dharma. Yuga Dharma means Dharma which is rules of conduct which are particular to certain time and place. For example, the eating, how people eat in India, in villages, how people eat in the Western countries. In the villages, people don't have furniture. They sit down on the floor. The floor is not cement or not carpeted. It's just cow dung is covered with the covering. Floor covering is cow dung. They sit on that one and leaf plate, they eat something with their hand. But here people don't do that one. They eat sitting on a chair near a dining table, and the furniture is there. Spoons and forks and knives are there. Now eating is common, but the way it is done is not universally common. In one country they eat in one way, other country they eat. This is called, this kind of activity which changes from place to place on with time. That is called Yuga Dharma, changing aspect of Dharma. How people dress, how people behave in a certain circumstances, like that one, just changing aspect of Dharma. That is called Yuga Dharma. specific to a time and place, changes with time and place. As opposed to that, Shashvata Dharma, which he is discussing here in the second line, Shashvatasya Dharmasya, that's what they are trying to understand. Shashvata Dharma means rules of conduct that do not change at all, regardless of time and place or circumstances. That is what the Upanishad speaks. The Puranas and Smritis, they teach us Yuga Dharma. Their duties, their teachings are not universal or relevant. Sometimes they change in a different place, different time. But the teachings of the Upanishad, they are Shashvata Dharma. The teaching of Upanishad are Brahman alone is the ultimate reality. Ekameva Advitiyam, not a second one. Everything is Brahman. Sarvam Kavidam Brahma. And you are that Brahman. Ayamatma Brahma. Every individual Atman is same as Brahma. These are all eternal teachings. They don't change. In any country, in any century, these are truth. These are Shashvata Dharma. That is what he is. He is the foundation of that. Shashvata Dharma. Yuga Dharma means the rules of conduct described in this, the Manusmriti, for example, Smriti Grantha, or in the Puranas and other scriptures, they change from time to time. Those are different aspects of life, changing aspects of life. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, for example, the teacher gives Shashvata Dharma instruction. That passage must be familiar to you. It has come several times before. In a Gurukulam, when the one batch of students graduate, complete their studies and go home, they become householders or pursue their life. At the last meeting, valedictory meeting, the teacher gives an instruction. What is the first instruction he gives? Satyam Mada, truthfulness. Never changes. It is true in America, it's true in India, it's true in everywhere. Satyam Mada. Dharmam Chara, Shashvata Dharma. Like that one. Swadhyaya Anma Pramadaha. Don't refrain from studying scriptures. Then it says, Matru Devo Bhava, Pita Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo. These are all Shashvata Dharma. There are two in India, there are two in America, there are two everywhere in every century. Mother is to be worshipped as God, father, mother, teacher, yes. True in every country, does not change with time. That is Shashvata Dharma. And the Lord is the basis, foundation of that Dharma. Second line, Shashvatasya Dharmasya. Last phrase, Sukasya Ekantikasya is the basis of infinite, eternal bliss, Ananda, not worldly Sukha. Two kinds of Sukha, three kinds of Sukha we are familiar with. For example, ordinary happiness coming from the sense objects. What is it called? Vishayananda. Happiness coming from food, from family, from children, from success in life, from money, from body. Is temporary. It's pleasure, all right, but not permanent. Changing every moment, and one day it will go, causing only unhappiness, that we know. That is one kind of sukha. It's called Vishaya Sukha, coming from sense objects. Vishaya. Body also a sense object. Second kind of sukha that we are familiar with is, what is it called? Bhajanananda. Bhajana means worship of God, chanting God's name, doing ritualistic worship, serving the devotees, taking holy company. All these things bring us joy. That kind of happiness is superior to Vishaya Sukha. Because the second kind of happiness of the Bhajanananda purifies the mind and paves the way for the highest Ananda, which is Atmananda or Brahmananda, joy of the self. God is the only source of happiness. These other things from which we seek happiness, they are simply reflecting surfaces. All the sense objects from which we seek happiness, they are not the original source of happiness. They reflect some happiness emanating from the Atman within. This is source of happiness. What this sense object gives is a very highly distorted, highly reduced, dim reflection of the joy of the self. You should leave this aside and go to the original source of joy, Ananda, Atmananda. So here, in the last phrase, Sukasya Ekantikasya means the source of Atman, the highest bliss, unchanging, eternal, unconditional, infinite joy that nothing can break. Does not depend upon the age or condition of the body. Worldly happiness depends upon the condition of the body. If I'm sick, I can't enjoy anything. To enjoy worldly pleasure, I must have a reasonably good health. In old age, food is there, I cannot eat, like that. Change depends on, it's a dependent, conditioned or conditional or dependent kind of happiness. That's not true happiness. The joy of Ananda coming from the Atman within, that is unconditional. Does not depend upon the existence of body or condition of body, age or anything or gender. Always present within us, latent. It is present this moment within us, that infinite joy. But it remains latent because you have not done enough to harness it, experience it, to experience it. When the mind is purified, becomes free from attachment to sense objects, then turn our attention to God within, then we experience the Bhajana Atmananda, infinite joy. That's what he's talking about. Sukasthaikantikasya. The divine presence within us is the source of that infinite joy. Ekantikasya. Extreme, indescribable, infinite joy. No word can explain that kind of happiness that comes within the self. That is, he is the source of that. That's what we have to know. Now, who is that? Who is the source of all these things? Next chapter is the answer to that. Purushottama Yoga. So this is the introduction to the next chapter. See how naturally he shifts from one topic to another. Until the 26th sloka is all Trigunatita. How to become free from the three gunas and liberation. Now he says, the supreme reality present within each one of us unconditionally, equally, not more in some, less in others. Visible more in some and visible less in others. But presence is the same. That we studied in the previous chapter, 13th chapter. You remember that important sloka that comes in chapter 13, sloka number 27. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram. Sarveshu bhuteshu, in all the beings, without any exception. Samam tishtantam parameshwaram. The Supreme Lord Parameshwara is present equally. He does not make any distinction, no partiality from the point of view of God. He is present in all, like sunlight falling equally in all objects. Some objects would be able to reflect sunlight more, some less, and some even less. Yet objects are different in their ability to reflect sunlight that falls upon them equally. In the same way, our bodies are all different from person to person. A person whose mind is steeped in ignorance, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, this is all ignorance, problem. A person whose mind is steeped in them is not Trigunatita, he is subject to tamas and rajas. Such a person, though God is present in that person equally, as in a saint, such a person cannot either experience God's presence for himself or herself, or display much less God's presence to others. As opposed to that, if you go to a holy person, a Mahatma, a real Mahatma, like for example, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, in such a person's life, the divine presence is clearly visible even to the onlookers. Not only does he experience divine presence 100% all the time, absorbed in the Atman, in himself, not interested in pursuing worldly things, pleasures. But even the people who go to such a person, in such a person's presence, ambience, anybody who goes, such a person also feels the effect of spirituality, purity, and calmness and peace. Such people radiate purity, spirituality, calmness, and peace to whomever approaches them and in their presence. Everybody feels. No question is asked, no answer is given. No lecture, no book. Their very presence is enough. Such people are the salt of the earth. They are there in large numbers. Otherwise, the world would not be even able to exist in this way. They are the supporters of sattva. They provide the sattva balance to this world. Ordinary people provide a lot of rajas and tamas in the world. But how the world is sustained, Dharma is sustained in spite of so many disturbances and tamasic events happening, because the presence of such people, they remain unknown, unseen by the public. They don't seek public light, limelight. They stay somewhere in a cave. Because Ramana Maharshi stayed in the basement of a temple for many years. Nobody knew about it. And then somebody discovered, oh, this boy sitting there, part of the body is all eaten up by insects. Brought him up and he went to the cave in the top of the hill. There also he was not known to many people. And gradually devotees started going. Then Paul Brunton wrote about Ramana Maharshi. That's how he became known to the world. The Western devotee, Paul Brunton, he went to Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi and wrote about him for the first time. That's how he came to be known. And other close disciples like Ganapati Muni, those people also spoke about him. Otherwise, they remain. They don't care for public attention or praise or reward. Sending their positive thoughts, affecting the whole universe in a positive way. That is secret. He is present in all. So, what is the nature of that reality that is present in all? That will come in the next chapter, fully discussed, Purushottama Yoga. Now, let us begin that. We won't be able to do the first sloka because it will some explanation. Just introduction to the chapter 15. This chapter begins with imagery. In the Upanishads and Puranas, we get a lot of imageries. The imagery in this at the beginning of chapter 15 is the imagery of an inverted tree. Ordinarily tree has the root below and branches above. But in this first chapter, 2 slokas of this 15th chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is comparing this empirical world, the world we are experiencing, to an inverted tree. Why it is inverted? What are the similarities between a tree and this world? Those will come for discussion in the first 2 slokas. This kind of imagery, like comparing the world to a tree, is common in spiritual literature. In the Upanishad, for example, we find different imageries. The one that is familiar to us from Mundaka Upanishad is the imagery of the 2 birds on a tree. That is, many Swamis have spoken about it in the Upanishads. There is one tree, which is the tree of the world. World is the tree. And 2 birds are there. One bird is sitting on the top branch, not moving, not looking in this way, that way, complete repose, resting in itself and enjoying the peace and calmness within itself. Not doing this and that, going here and there. Another bird, similar looking bird, in the lower branches, it is looking for a fruit tree. It eats one fruit, turns out to be sweet. So it becomes interested. Oh, I want to eat more sweet fruit. Then goes to the next branch, tastes another fruit. That happens to be bitter. Oh, then makes a grimace. This is not good. I should look for a sweet fruit. Goes to another branch, eats one more fruit. Like this, it keeps on tasting different fruits, some sweet, some bitter. And hops from branch to branch looking for more fruits, more sweet fruits. As it approaches near the top of the tree, it looks up and sees another bird. Oh, exactly like me, is there. Looks at another bird. That bird is not moving at all, simply sitting there calmly, quietly enjoying the peace, not eating any fruit, not encountering bitter or sweet fruit, calmly sitting there. Oh, then it goes nearer and nearer. Then it realizes this lower bird was same as the upper one. Only one bird was there appearing as 2. So our ordinary people are like the lower bird. In this world, we are looking for happiness. Sometimes you find happiness in a family, sometimes in a child, sometimes in a job, sometimes in money, sometimes in other kinds of pleasures. But sometimes we encounter unhappy experiences. We look for happiness, but we find unhappiness there. Relationships fail, children disappointment, job, you lose a job and become unhappy, something, or money is lost in stock market. Sometimes money, stock prices go up and more money comes and you'll be happy. Next day, the stock prices fall and then, oh, money lost. That is the fate of ordinary people. But people like Ramana Maharshi, Mahatma, they don't do any such thing. They simply sit down there and calmly enjoying the peace within, God's presence within. The upper bird represents such people. Actually, there is only one bird. So that kind of imagery is given in the Mundaka Upanishad. In the Katha Upanishad, two imageries are given. One is the same inverted tree. It comes in Katha Upanishad also, it comes in Mahabharata also. The inverted tree example. In the other example that comes in the Katha Upanishad is the imagery of a chariot and the charioteer. There, each individual person, soul, seeking God, is compared to a traveler in a chariot. Those days there were no cars, only chariots, we drawn by horses. So this, we are all travelers. You are doing this journey towards what is destination? God is the destination. Atman is destination. What is the chariot? What is the vehicle we are using? This body. This physical body, mind, thus constitutes the chariot system. The passenger is the individual Jivatma. So he describes the charity, the chariot, Katha Upanishad. There, Yama says, Atma, sorry, Ramata me Atmanam Ratinam Vidhi. Atman is, individual Atman is Rati. It is charioteer, the person traveling in the chariot, passenger. Shariram Rata me Vato. The Sharira is the Ratha, chariot. Then he says, Buddhim Tasaratim Vidhi. The chariot needs a charioteer, driver of the chariot, and that is the Buddhi, our individual intellect, shows the way to destination. That is, steers the chariot. The chariot is the driver, Buddhi. If the Buddhi is Sattvic, takes us to right destination in the safest way. If the Buddhi is Rajasic, Tamasic, unknown destination. He may end up in a disaster. So Buddhi has to be Sattvic, pure. Buddhim ta saratim vidhi. But the Sarathi cannot control the horses directly unless he has a lagam, the rein, that rope that connects the horses to the charioteer's hand. So using the lagam or the rein, the Buddhi gives direction to the sense organs. Horses are the sense organs. Indriyane haya nahu. Haya means horse, indriyas. So if the horses are well trained, and they will, if the authority has a clear mind, clear view of destination, safest path, the passenger reaches the destination nicely, safely, not his destination. If the horses are not well trained, if you take any five wild horses and tie them to a chariot, we don't know where they pull. Each pulls in a different direction. The journey is not safe. And if the chariot is not having Sattvic Buddhi, then also journey is not safe. So all these conditions have to be met for the individual soul to reach God. So the description of the chariot, where all these parts are described, that's another imagery which helps us to visualize our the part of this worldly. Why we are living in this world? What's this world? It's part of a journey. It's not the destination. It's not our true abode. This is only a part of the journey we are traveling. We have to go through this. What is the destination? God is destination. What is the chariot? The body is the chariot. What is who is the charioteer? Buddhi. Keep it sattvic. Like this one. Which are the horses? Sense organ. They have to be well trained. Dhamma. That is how imagery is given here. So in this way, in the next chapter, beginning the first two slokas, they describe the world that we are experiencing, of which we think we are a part, compares it to an inverted tree. What are the common features of a tree and the world? That he is going to describe. In every way, world is not like a tree. World is not like a tree in every way. Only some respects it resembles a tree. That is all. So we'll do that next time. Now we shall stop here and say the closing prayer. Then you can ask questions. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from diseases, afflictions, and other problems. May all realize and practice what is noble, auspicious, and dharmic. May no one be subject to misery. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace, enjoy harmony among all the beings, Adi Bhautika Shanti, and may there be peace everywhere in nature, Adi Daivika Shanti, Hari Om Tat Sat, Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Okay, now your turn.
Thank you.
Namaste Swamiji, Pranam.
Namaskar. I didn't hear what.
Please, everyone go on mute. Only the person who wants to ask question, please unmute themselves.
Yeah, unmute. Only one person, others mute yourselves. Otherwise, we'll continue our study next time. Chapter 15, very interesting chapter, very nice chapter. In some parts of India, people memorize this 15th chapter and chanted the whole chapter, 20 verses only, short chapter before meals. So it's a nice practice to memorize the 15th chapter and chant it before starting the meals. So that can be done.
So,
Very nice.
Swamiji, there is a question.
Thank you. And thank you. Pranam Maharaj. Sorry.
Radhe, can I ask a question or should I wait? This is Padma.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So Swamiji, keeping all this knowledge in perspective, and everybody is on the spiritual path, and we know that we have to strive for purity of mind. And if there is a scenario where if you're in relationship, it could be anything. It could be your job or personal relationship. And if you're struggling to understand the relationship, if you don't know, you ask. If you do not agree, discuss. If you do not like it, say it. But don't judge them silently. So if one wants to practice these things and you try all these things, and you don't want to judge that person, you don't want to be angry at that person, you don't want to be upset with that person, and you don't want to resent, and you're trying your best that
Upset
you don't
anybody.
want to, right? You don't want to do all that. So is it fair spiritually that you come to some crossroads and you know what you are and you really don't want to be messing up your mind, and you really want to be genuinely nice and pure, but is it fair to just distance yourself from that kind of relationship spiritually? Or is it avoidance? Or is it that we are running away? Or is it okay, is it fair in spirituality that all you want is just distance, but you're not judging them, you don't have anger, you don't have anything, but just peacefully just distance yourself? Is that fair in spirituality? Is this okay?
How to react with in other words, to rephrase the question, how to react with people whose behavior is different in a family or any place, workplace or any place. For this one, there is an instruction in the 12th chapter, chapter shloka number 15, Gita. There Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, focus attention on your own behavior and try not to be affected by other people's behavior, pleasant or unpleasant, and try not to disturb other people's convenience by our own behavior. The sloka is 12:15. Yasman no dvijate loko, loka no dvijate chayaha. Second line is related, but not directly. Harsha varshabayo dvegair mukto yasatame priyaha. Yasmat lokana udvijate. A person, devotee, is one by whose behavior, loka means the world or other people, they are not affected, especially adversely. Lokat na udvijate. The person, a devotee, is one who is not affected, remains unperturbed by other people's behavior, even if it is not convenient or pleasant. So that discipline. That is what we have to practice. Go ahead.
Until we really come to that stage, and if you're working towards this thing, in the interim, In the interim, is it fair to say, okay, I'm just going to just keep a distance, and with an empathy? You're not keeping a distance with anger, you're not keeping a distance with a grudge or jealousy or anything. You're just keeping a distance to say, okay, with empathy and love and compassion, and give them that room and space, and say, you know what, in the meanwhile, all I can give you is love and empathy, but you take your time as much as you need to. But in the meanwhile, I'm not going to reciprocate your anger. If you're going to give me anger, I don't want to give anger. But if I'm forced to be in the situation, somehow I have still not gotten to that saintly state of mind. So you are choosing just to distance yourself from the situation and give that other person that space, or the relationship that space, to say, I am only going to offer you love, but you take your time as much as you need to. Is that okay? Is that fair?
You can, as you yourself mentioned, do two things. One is to maintain distance. That's the safest thing. They don't have much contact if it is possible. But sometimes we can't avoid, because you have to live with that person, a family member. How much can you distance yourself? Because again, you have to go back home every evening at work, after work. Or the other situation is in the workplace. Every day you go to work, he or she is there. You can't change the co-workers. That's not up to you. Your company does all those things. There, when you cannot distance yourself, that's the best thing, to stay away. Then there's not much room for problem. If you cannot stay away, then as you mentioned, don't reciprocate the anger or any other unpleasant behavior. If that person is nasty towards you, you won't help if he is also equally nasty to that. Then we can't blame that person. He is nasty, I am also nasty. So what's the problem? Difference. So you remain calm, unperturbed. That is explained in the in shloka number the same, 12-15, and also practice equanimity, same-sightedness, whether he is a friend or a foe. Chapter 6, verse number 9. Whether he is a suhrit friend, friendly towards you, then you have no problem. When he is not friendly towards you, then you have to you can either keep quiet and bear deeksha, or if it is not bearable, then you have to take some action. You should not be a doormat. Being a devotee or seeking a spiritual seeker does not mean you should be weak and tolerate everything. People, they don't let that happen. You should be proactive. Sometimes you have to be proactive, not aggressive, but assertive. How can it be done? First of all, you can directly negotiate with that person. See, what you're doing is causing inconvenience, and please don't do it. So nicely, friendly way, you can try to resolve the difference. If that does not work, then most workplaces have a grievance procedure. Contacting the next superior, next immediate boss, explain the problem, seeking intervention. Something like that has to be done. If you don't do anything and keep on forbearing, that person will mistake it for weakness and keep on doing more, push you to the wall. So it's not good to be a doormat like that. You have to be strong and assertive, but not aggressive and angry. Without anger, without hatred, you have to take some action. So it becomes necessary to take some action sometimes.
I was
hatred or anger. Go ahead.
I was lost, like for 20 some years. I was lost, like taking some action. For me, in my mind, I felt like taking action means that I haven't grown spiritually to the extent that I need to grow. But at some point, it was feeling like tolerating doesn't mean taking abuse for years to come. Having a good heart doesn't necessarily mean, and I needed to hear it spiritually, that tolerating doesn't mean you have to take everything. That is not spirituality. Spirituality is not saying everything comes your way and you have to take it. That is not the definition of tolerance. So I needed to hear it from spiritually, from spirituality, and that came very, very late. So I'm just in that baby steps to acknowledge, like, okay, you can give empathy, you still give them empathy. It doesn't mean that you have to be sore, and sour to that person or situation, or what. You remain the same. Just the love that you have given before, you continue to give the love, you continue to empathize with them, you continue to sympathize with them. But it is okay to distance yourself, is spiritually validated. It is okay that you're just taking that space and you're staying away from that situation, and you should still continue to give them love and empathy and compassion, just like as you would otherwise also. So
It's a long
thank you.
question. So spirituality, to very short, keep it short. Spirituality does not mean remaining weak. That only some people can do. Very great Mahatma, they don't react at all. Even if you beat them, they will not react. But that rule does not apply to us. We are not where they are. For example, in Ramana Maharshi's ashrama, some robbers went one night, with sticks in their hands. They thought this Ramana Maharshi and some disciples were staying with him. They had all collected money and stashed money somewhere in the ashrama, appearing to be poor people. So they demanded money. There was no money in the ashrama. They only had a few pots and pans and some clothes. But the robbers were demanding money. Then they started beating the disciples, and Ramana Maharshi also got beaten. But the disciples wanted to call police. Ramana Maharshi said no, let them beat. He showed the other side of the body. This does not apply to us. We are not in the same situation at same level where Ramana Maharshi was. For us ordinary people, at some point you have to react and say, no, this much and not more, stop. That has to be done without anger and hatred.
Sorry, we have one more.
At some time you have to call the police if necessary, or complain to the supervisor if necessary. Some action has to be taken. We can't be like great Mahatmas, they don't react at all. Them doesn't matter, body doesn't matter. We are not at that stage yet. So spirituality does not mean weakness and being a doormat.